Let's be honest, living at home gets a bad rap. You know, I'm 26 going on 27 and I currently live at home. And a lot of people might look at that as, oh man, it's time for you to leave the nest and start renting, start living by yourself. But at the same time, I have a great relationship with my family that I live with, and it gives me the opportunity to save a ton of money, invest a ton of that money, and I still do help around the house, whether it be chores, outside work. I do pay a little bit for rent and just overall groceries, and then I will help if it comes to cooking or just bringing groceries in the house. So I'm definitely not freeloading by any means, but I definitely feel the pressure sometimes from people about moving out, and sometimes kind of think yeah, if you stay at home you're a failure, and I just kind of wanted to make this video to kind of show the advantages and disadvantages of staying home. So, like I said, at the end of the day, this isn't about excuses. Just real talk, my personal experience with it, and my opinion on it. So let's take a dive. Part one: why people hate admitting they live at home. I think they're kind of like mentioned before. There's definitely a social stigma around living at home, especially in your 20s, and obviously probably your 30s and 40s. But hopefully we don't have to cross that path. Just overall embarrassment, assumptions about being lazy or broke. A lot of people assume you're not independent or successful. And I definitely think that pressure to quote unquote grow up faster than your bank account allows, definitely hinders the current generation. Now I'm all for, growing up and not being broke and lazy. And, I definitely don't think, me personally, that's my experience with it so far. Like I said, being able to stay at home, save a ton of money on rent, groceries, just overall maintenance costs, I guess you can say. I was able to save a ton of money, and with that money, I have invested a lot of it. And just overall, my ultimate goal is to set myself up for success when it is time to leave the nest, whether that be moving to another job or buying my first house, putting that down payment for the first house. So me personally, I think it's a bigger benefit to stay at home than move out if your living situation allows it. Part two: why living at home can actually be smart. Kind of mentioning that a little bit earlier. You're avoiding rent. Biggest expense for most people is rent, and it's guaranteed it's going to go up every year, guaranteed. Staying at home, you have more breathing room to, like I mentioned before, save aggressively, pay down debt. If you went to college and you own student loans, or you took a loan out for a new car because your old car took a shit, you're able to invest early. That is definitely the number one spot that I took advantage of, being able to live at home and save a bunch of money. I have invested easily probably 70% of my take-home pay. And to a lot of people, that sounds insane, but, I'm very frugal with the money I make, and, I paid a little bit of rent. I'll help with groceries. Like I said, the rest of it, I really don't enjoy for myself. So whatever I don't pay for rent and groceries, I pretty much stick that money in the market and just let it grow, let it compound that much faster and that much quicker with the amount of value I'm allowed to invest in. And living at home, it also allows you to take some more risk in life, while also being consistent and investing, being a safe route. You can also kind of dabble on the side, whether it be building a business or a side hustle, kind of like this YouTube channel. It's maybe it starts as a hobby, and then, slowly but surely, I could possibly make this an extra income stream. I'm kind of like mentioning that, my last video, I wanted to thank everybody who tuned into my last video. Compared to the channel size currently, that video blew up. I think my average viewers, the past videos was like 5 to 7 viewers. That video currently, I think, is sitting at 90 viewers. So everybody who tuned into the last video, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I really appreciate all that support. And I hope to continue that trend and just continue to grow this channel and provide value to everybody who tunes in. So once again, thanks again, everybody. So kind of jumping back on topic here. Part 3, the downside of living at home. And, you know, obviously there are some, and I planned on covering those. Lack of privacy. While that doesn't really impact me much, you know, I'm able to be in my own room. You know, I'm kind of secluded in the house with my family. So like I'm kind of designated in my own little spot. You know, I have some decent privacy. I will be honest there, but a lot of houses or a lot of families, you know, maybe don't provide that kind of privacy. They're like, maybe your parents are like, hey, you know, my house, my rules, you know, can't lock the door or can't have friends over, whatever the case may be. I will say my family is very, very flexible, very cool about that whole situation. As long as I'm not bothering them or become a nuisance, they have no problem with me. And I really appreciate that from them. It really, like I said, supports my overall goal of just building that strong foundation for myself when it is time to eventually move on. Kind of covering that a little bit, you know, family dynamics can be tough. You know, like I said, I have a really good relationship with my family. We get along really well, so it really doesn't become an issue, you know, living together in a shared space. But a lot of people are the complete opposite. You know, a lot of people get kicked out as soon as they're 18. Their parents kick them out of the house and make them move out on their own, or they decide to move out on their own because they just don't like the dynamic, the family dynamic, at the current household. And, you know, obviously, you know, it's per basis, whether your situation allows the connectivity with your family, or, you know, you just have to get out because it's a toxic relationship. I understand that. And, you know, like I said, it's just kind of luck of the draw at the end of the day. And, you know, sometimes you may feel stuck or not, quote unquote, progressing socially. I can't say I really have that issue. You know, I still date. I still go to a job. I still interact with people. You know, I do my own laundry. You know, I clean up my own messes. You know, I really don't have my mom following behind me or my dad following behind me. And, you know, kind of as they're getting older, you know, it kind of helps them out a little bit too. You know, you can help climb up the ladder to replace a light bulb or go outside and help with yard work, whatever the case may be. I don't really look at it, you know, not progressing socially. I think what I do living at home, I would do the same living by myself. So I don't really look at it like that, but maybe some people do. But, you know, at the end of the day, the discomfort, if you do experience it, it can be worth it if you are building something long term. You know, if you're just living at home and you don't have a job, you're not saving money, you're just kind of bumming it out. In that case, yes, it is a very negative. I feel it'll be a very negative impact on your life when it is time to move out. Because like if you're not taking full advantage of living at home, you know, getting a job, saving a ton of money, investing a ton of money, just overall saving a lot on expenses. What are you doing? Maybe it's time to get kicked out from your parents. You know, maybe to kind of screw your head on tighter and get you moving, get you prepared for the future. You know, part 4, my personal experience, you know, I kind of sprinkled that out throughout this video, but I just kind of closing on the personal experiences. I'm okay living at home for now. You know, like I said, I have a good relationship with the family that I live with. We get along for the most part. Obviously you get some arguments here and there, but I think that's every family. That's every type of relationship you'd be in. You know, get along with the family, able to save a ton of money. Thankfully, I only live about 10 minutes away from work. So I always kind of looked at it like, well, why would I move out and give someone else money when I could stay at home, pay a fraction of what rent would be if I decided to move out on my own, pay that to support my parents on paying down the house, paying down the mortgage, and then obviously the little expenses or maintenance costs that come with owning a house, and here to support them if they need anything, whether it be cleaning, yard work, dinner, whatever the case may be. I just look at that. I look at it at that angle. It's a win-win for both parties. Everyone's timeline is different. You know, I haven't experienced moving out and having to move back in, but, you know, kind of looking at the current job market we have nowadays in our current time, I see a lot of people that were already moved out and lost their job, or expenses have just gone up so much that they can't afford to continue to pay rent, and they ended up moving back home. And I feel if I ever had the reason to move, whether it be move for a job or go buy a house, and it just completely fell apart, I feel I would have a strong enough relationship with my family that if I really had to come back home, I'd be welcomed with open arms. So overall, like I said, everyone's timeline is different. You may hit a snag in the road and have to come back home. And at the end of the day, if your family supports you and your family allows you to come back home, I see no wrong in going home, kind of resetting, getting your feet back under you, and deciding what the next move is there. If you decide to move out again or stay home a little bit to build that foundation up again, to ultimately decide to make that move, it's your decision at the end of the day. And ultimately, if you have that ability to do so, I say go for it. I say utilize it. That's what family's for at the end of the day, right? To support each other in troubling times. And I have a little bit of this personally, but don't let shame stop you from making smart decisions. My current situation, I can move out and be perfectly fine, no problem. I make enough money. I bring enough take-home pay home that I can live on my own comfortably renting. And like the amount of money I have invested currently, I can put the brakes on it a little bit where I won't have to invest as aggressively as I do now. But I really try not to look at as a shame aspect, because if I were to compare my financial situation living at home compared to a lot of people out there now paying between $1,500 and $2,500 in rent, a lot of people are able to pay rent, pay the groceries, and that's about it for the month. A lot of people that live on their own, in my circle at least, aren't able to invest nearly as much as I'm investing right now. And while some of them really say, "Oh man, I'm so glad I moved out. My family was very toxic, or I didn't really have much privacy." On the other hand, I've had some friends move out saying, "Man, if I didn't have a girlfriend or a wife, or if I didn't have to move for my work, I'd love to go back home. My parents would welcome me in open arms, and I'd be able to save that much more money and invest it and plan for the future." So ultimately, what I'm getting at is, like, if you do live at home and you're doing all the right things, you're investing, you're saving, you're helping out the family, don't be shamed. Don't feel shameful about your current situation. Just be thankful that your situation allows you to stay home for as long as you need, and to, like I said, save the money and be smart with your money. And at the end of the day, the goal isn't to move out fast. It's to move out when you're ready, when you think it's time to go. Like I said, living 10 minutes away from work, I personally don't see a huge reason to go move out right now and just give someone else money when I can support my family, give them a little bit of money, and help them out around the house when needed. And, just continue to build up my financial portfolio. Other people, they want to move out as soon as they turn 18, or as soon as they turn 18, they forcefully get kicked out of the house. Like I said, it really just depends on the living dynamic you live in. Unfortunately, some of us have a better family, a more supportive family, and you kind of just have to roll with the punches, whatever the world offers you. So like I said, that's all my thoughts on just living at home, my personal experience, the advantages, disadvantages of it all. If you've ever lived at home, or you're currently living there right now, feel free to drop a comment. What's been your experience living at home? Were you forced to leave, or were you continued to be pressured of, "Hey, when's it time to leave? When's it time to leave? I'm ready for you to leave the house." Or, did you have a really cool, supportive family that said, "Hey, as long as you don't become a pain in the ass, you can stay as long as you want. Just help around the house, pay a little bit for rent, pay a little bit for groceries, just overall keep the house going, keep the house kind of chucking along." So like I said, I would really love to hear your experiences. And once again, like I said before, this is the lunch table. These are the similar kind of videos I'm going to be putting out there. Talks about money, life, just ultimate freedom, however you want to take that, financial freedom, personal freedom. The world is your oyster. Take it how you will. Once again, I really want to thank everybody for showing up for the last video. Like I said, we absolutely blew up compared to the size of my channel, averaging 5 to 7 viewers. That video is like 90 plus views right now. So bottom of my heart, I really want to thank you guys again for the support, and hope to continue to provide some insight, some entertainment in these videos, and continue to grow the channel, like I said. So once again, everybody, thanks again for the new viewers coming in. Thanks again for the existing viewers returning. Appreciate the support as always. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're into these kind of chats, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a good night.